Welcome everybody to another episode of Nerding Out with Nic Bodiford. I am your host, Nic Bodiford. It is Monday, a few hours before the Monday Night Football game. The date is 11/28/2022. Hope you all are coming off hot wins, headed to the playoffs. If you're not, I'm going to try to give you some advice, see if we can't right the ship. Still a few buy lows here that I think that we could take advantage of, but we're going to do our normal recap, and we'll touch on some waiver options along the way. Buffalo Bills 28 at Detroit Lions 25. Devin Singletary still the full-time running back in Buffalo. James Cook, though, is the clear number 2, and he's doing a really good job of earning targets on the opportunities that he's given. Gabe Davis has become a very volatile target earner, while Isaiah McKenzie has seen an increase in his on-field participation in 3 of the last 4 games. I think there is an opportunity for McKenzie to maybe leapfrog Davis. Now, the issue here is that McKenzie is very small, and like 180 pounds or something. He's small to the point that it might be difficult for him to maintain a full-time NFL role, but he's got an opportunity. I still think Gabe is a terrific downfield wide receiver, but just something to monitor here. Good news on Josh Allen's injury, his elbow injury. He was practicing in full today on Monday. So that's the first time, I think, since the UCL injury. So woohoo. As far as the Detroit Lions goes, we already know that Amon-Ra St. Brown is an every week wide receiver 1. DeAndre Swift has resumed operating as the primary passing down back. And I broke that down in my 5 things we learned column at the 33rd team. So you can go check out the per play data there. That does not mean, though, that Jamal Williams is not fantasy relevant. He absolutely is. He's a weekly RB2. The tight ends are being split. James Mitchell and Brock Wright. Brock Wright, I think, is getting a little more time on the field, but Mitchell is the more talented pass catcher. And I think that he has the opportunity, or he does have the opportunity. I think he will continue to separate from Brock Wright, but Brock Wright is a good blocker. Getting breaking news here on the Rams. Aaron Donald, high ankle sprain. That's not good. New York Giants 20 at Dallas Cowboys 28. Something I covered also over at the 33rd team is the New York Giants 3 wide receiver set moving forward. Odell Beckham Jr. did something on an airplane. Didn't seem like it was good. Going in and out of consciousness, I guess. They called 911 and had to deplane, so get all of the passengers off in order to get him off. He wouldn't leave. I don't know what's going on there. But Odell was supposed to go tour the facilities of both the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys. I would imagine Brian Daboll, who just jettisoned Kadarius Toney for being a bad culture fit, probably doesn't want to bring Odell Beckham Jr. in here, because Odell, over the last few weeks, had spoken a lot about how he wanted a place to settle down. He was tired of living the fast-paced lifestyle, and I think that was appealing to some people, because some people, I don't really have a problem with NFL players with big personalities. There are some things I draw the line at, but this kind of flies in the face of some of the stuff that he was saying off field in terms of how he was going about life. So I kind of think it's going to be the Dallas Cowboys that end up signing Beckham, and he could have a pretty big role. So something to keep in mind there. We'll talk about Dallas in a minute, though. So what is the 3 wide receiver set in New York? It does not involve Kenny Golladay. And I broke this down in the piece at the 33rd team, 5 things we learned. Check it out. But Darius Slayton will be the number 1 wide receiver moving forward. Richie James has replaced Wan'Dale Robinson, who suffered a torn ACL 2 weeks ago, I think. James is the starting slot receiver. He is totally fine. He's not elite. He's not bad. Totally fine. And he will be startable in 12-team formats, probably based on matchup, but he's worth an add. Isaiah Hodgins is the number 3 receiver here, and he is relevant. Hodgins was on the Buffalo Bills. He's in his 3rd year as a pro. He was on the Buffalo Bills for the first 2 years of his career. He was cut on November 1st this year from Buffalo. Daboll signed him on November 2nd. And he's run significant routes since he joined the team. He actually scored a touchdown last week, but it was called back. if you were in a deep format, I think you need to add Isaiah Hodgins. Matt Breida getting some passing down reps. Gary Brightwell might be the number 2 running back, though, behind Saquon Barkley. On the Dallas side of the ball, Ezekiel Elliott outplayed Tony Pollard this week. Happens. Hey, blind squirrels find nuts. Michael Gallup doing a good job of earning targets this week, which was the first time that he's really done so since he's come back from the ACL reconstruction. So that's good. We'd love to see that again. Dalton Schultz scored a couple of touchdowns. I still think that Jake Ferguson is a worthwhile add in dynasty formats. CeeDee Lamb is going to get to just pummel Indianapolis Colts slot cornerback Kenny Moore, because I believe that's who they're facing. Probably worth me double checking that on air. But the way that the Colts run their secondary, and yes, that is correct. The way the Colts run their secondary, they've got Isaiah Rodgers going wherever Stephon Gilmore isn't on the perimeter when Gilmore is shadowing. But Gilmore doesn't really go into the slot. So CeeDee Lamb should just beat the crud out of Kenny Moore. So that's exciting. CeeDee Lamb will be very highly ranked next week. New England Patriots 26, Minnesota Vikings 33. Kind of a bummer here. A lot of injuries for New England. Jacoby Myers suffered a shoulder injury, came back in the game, re-injured it. Devontae Parker suffered a shoulder injury. Nelson Aguilar was the primary beneficiary of these things, and I think he will be startable probably as a third, as a wide receiver 3, maybe a wide receiver 4 next week or this week, assuming he's not one of the 2 teams on bye. I know it is the Arizona Cardinals and who will be on bye this week. Okay, Carolina Panthers. Actually, that is really interesting for later on. So anyway, Nelson Aguilar, I think he'll be startable this week. The other guy to get hurt was Damian Harris, suffered a thigh injury, which means Ramondre Stevenson is going to get all the work he can handle next week. Jonnu Smith had been creating problems for Hunter Henry, but he didn't this time, and Henry scored. I think that Henry will have DFS appeal this week with both Myers and Parker hurt. Wide receivers average 3.8 games missed with non-specific shoulder injuries. We don't know what the injuries are, but that comes from Adam Hutchison's injury index. As far as Minnesota goes, you are starting Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson every week. I think that Adam Thielen is an okay guy to start based on the matchup, but is not an every week start per se. Dalvin Cook, you're going to keep starting him, but I am lowering him a bit in the ranks. Denver Broncos 10 at Carolina Panthers 23. Latavius Murray has a full-time role. He is terribly inefficient. Mind-bogglingly inefficient, but this is the kind of guy that you look for if you went wide receiver heavy early, because he's got a big time role. Marlon Mack somehow was earning some targets. It is so ugly there, though. Cortland Sutton is really the only guy that we moderately trust as like a low-end wide receiver 3 on a weekly basis. Sam Darnold, he is back, and he has made DJ Moore stable. Donta Foreman left the game, I think, twice. Once with a leg issue and then once with a back. We don't know what the deal is, but they are on bye, so he has a chance to get healthy. Chuba Hubbard featured in as the number 2, and he got a lot of run. We need to monitor Donta Foreman's health, and if you need a running back and you want to add Chuba Hubbard, I think that's fine. But you have to have a sturdy enough roster that you don't need to start whoever you add this week. Tampa Bay Buccaneers 17 at Cleveland Browns 23. There were some who were interested in Cade Otton, and I don't remember where I was most recently on him. There was a time that I was a little bit interested in him, at least from a dynasty perspective, but there were some red flags when he had his big blow-up game because it came in overtime, and his target earning ability was inefficient, but he piled up volume. That's not awesome. And I don't think he had any injury designations for this one, but it was not a good time for him. So I think Otten is really just a dynasty only guy. Excuse me. Chris Godwin, target hog. Mike Evans, the offense is it's kind of volatile. I'm going to be super blunt here. So if you don't like coaching critiques, then go ahead and hit the skip 15-second mark. Todd Bowles and Byron Leftwich are not, they don't know what they're doing on offense. We had Leftwich answering some questions the other day where it just shows a fundamental lack of understanding of how the game is like. A reporter asked him about expected points added, EPA, and he asked him like he'd never heard the term before. And this is an archaic team. It's run by guys who don't have an understanding of the modern NFL. And yes, they have forgotten more about football than I will ever know. But I just, with what is going on with Tom Brady, who does not look good, like physically, does not look healthy. I just think that this offense, there are some concerning factors that might cap ceilings or create more floor outings from time to time. That said, I'm still going to tell you to start Chris Godwin every week. I'm still probably going to tell you to start Mike Evans every week, though I did bench him in one league this week. Happy that I did that. Although I think there was a scoring play that he might have had that was overturned. Anyway, as far as the running backs go, we talked about this last week. I encourage you to all go back and look for my week 10 recap article at the 33rd team, where I talked about the usage trends that were pointing towards Rachaad White's direction before Leonard Fournette was injured. And White did a great job. He has not been a game wrecker, but he's performing sufficiently. Leonard Fournette will be past the average 1.8 games missed threshold for non-specific hip injuries. I know he's a hip pointer. I don't have hip pointer data. I've got non-specific hip injury data. I expect Leonard Fournette to return this week. He practiced in a limited capacity all week last week. I think he'll probably be the number 2. Lenny is a guy who has had a lot of health issues that kind of stem from a lack of preparation and care. We've talked a lot about how he likes to sit in bed eating gumbo, per him, not by anybody else. Sorry, just checking the news here. But yeah, I think White can kind of just run away with this job. So yeah, okay, there's the end of that situation. And any Gio Bernard concerns, they're gone with Leonard Fournette back in the lineup. On the Browns side of things, obviously Deshaun Watson's coming back this week. I think David Njoku probably is a top 5 tight end now. Check your waiver wire for Kareem Hunt. He's been cut somewhere. I cut him at in one weird league I was in. Ammon. I did cut Kareem Hunt. It's 18 league, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I'd go look for him because I think Watson will, like, Jacoby Brissett played out of his mind, and I think he should be a starter in the NFL next year. But Deshaun Watson, I think he can just distribute the ball more effectively, and Kareem Hunt could have a role. Amari Cooper, just an absolute beast. Anthony Schwartz had some kind of fun dynamic usage. I don't think it's going to stick, but keep an eye on that. Baltimore Ravens, 27 at Jacksonville Jaguars. Gus the Bus, right back into that number 1 role. I wrote that usage up over at the 33rd team, so go check that out. Justice Hill looks like he's the number 2, getting some work on passing downs, and he would be the preferred bench stash, I think, to Kenyon Drake. Josh Oliver, tight end Josh Oliver, he got involved in the game. Demarcus Robinson and Devin Duvernay were playing hurt. It's a bummer of an outing. For Mark Andrews, we did see the whenever if you have a tight end you like mildly to moderately, and they're playing against the Jacksonville Jaguars, you have to start him because Devin Lloyd is the worst coverage linebacker in the NFL, and Mark Andrews didn't get to feast, but Josh Oliver did. And hey, maybe that's where I should have gone with the DFS cheat sheet last week. But yeah, I went there with Mark Andrews. Spoiler alert. Trevor Lawrence, I think he had his breakout game. This was really good. And there's really cool on-field chemistry going on with him and head coach Doug Peterson. I'm optimistic about this offense. I don't think that Zay Jones is going to continue to be that kind of a producer on a weekly basis, but it was a good showing for Jacksonville. ETN was supposedly cleared. I've seen my guy, Jeff Mueller, question whether ETN was actually cleared because he didn't go back in the game after suffering a foot or ankle injury. A little bit unclear. And I think it was on his opposite foot. A few guys suffered lower leg injuries to anyway. Yeah, I don't know if that was actually to the same foot, but hey, go check out Jeff Mueller at JM Thrive PT on Twitter. He will answer all your questions. He's a super sharp guy, very friendly. Anyway, what to do? I think we can rely on ETN to just blow stuff up against the Detroit Lions next week. But in the event that he can't play, Hasty is a worthwhile ad. Jermichael Hasty is a worthwhile ad. Jarrell Henderson probably gets the rock on early downs, but Hasty, he's been very, very efficient. Houston Texans 15 at Miami Dolphins 30. Game script can be an issue for Dameon Pierce. That said, Rex Burkhead is in the concussion protocol per Adam Hutchison's injury index. Running backs miss an average of 1.8 games with concussions. So I think Rex is probably safely out. Dare Ogunbowale, though, played ahead of Dameon, generally speaking, on passing downs. So I think Dare Ogunbowale will maybe be a 0 RB team target for the week, but this could provide an opportunity for Dameon Pierce to separate. I wrote up the Houston Texans backfield. I think it was on August 5th because it was before the preseason had actually begun, preseason games, because I think they kicked off on the 7th. But I wrote up the Houston Texans backfield in early August at 4 for 4. You go check that out. Dameon Pierce had a fairly promising collegiate receiving profile. And I think if he's given the opportunity here with Rex Burkhead out, I think that Dameon Pierce can seize the full-time role. And that would be really exciting. For dynasty purposes, you might want to sell high. We know how teams are with mid to late round running back picks, but I think for this year, we could see a fun increase. But we won't know it until he actually takes the job. Nico Collins is the unquestioned number one wide receiver on the Houston Texans. Moving to Miami, Mike Gesicki sucks. He's a bad team fit. It's not the right place for him. Myles Gaskin is the clear-cut backup to Jeff Wilson Jr. when Raheem Mostert is out. He was playing on some passing downs. They were splitting them between Wilson and Mostert beforehand, and they basically retained that split with the current setup with Mostert out. Jeff Wilson ended up cramping, and I guess like Tyreek Hill had to pull him off the field. Too bad, because this should have been a really big smash spot. He did score the touchdown, so you're not disappointed, but ultimately this should have been a much, much more fruitful outing for Jeff Wilson Jr. Chicago Bears 10 at New York Jets, number 31. As far as the Jets go, you're starting David Montgomery, and maybe you start Chase Claypool. With Trevor Siemian at quarterback, it's really, really gruesome. The problem with the injury, and I've seen conflicting stuff here as to what actually happened to Justin Fields' shoulder. Adam was thinking that it was a grade 3 AC joint sprain, and the biggest thing there, one, is pain, but two, it's a really nasty injury. And he included some graphics on there that show you what gets severed and how it can lead to more injuries down the road. Like, I get they should keep him if that is what happened, because I think he was doing his own analysis. If that is actually what happened, then I guess I can just look this up, because I'm seeing some folks say that it was a dislocated shoulder. But yeah, see, I'm seeing on here that it was a CBS Sports on Wednesday. Field described the separated shoulder as basically an AC joint injury with torn ligaments. So yeah, I think I trust Adam. Adam is super damn sharp, and I think if that's what he's saying, by his view, that I think that's probably right. He's got his training room article series. You can go check it out from week 11 to do your own homework there at 4 for 4. I think that those are free. He also does his podcast, though. Go check out his podcast. It called Initial Evaluation. Anyway, without Fields under center, I think it's just David Montgomery. I don't really want to start Cole Kmet, and I don't really want to start Chase Claypool. Claypool had some cool catches, but he only caught 2 of 5 targets. The guy really struggles in contested catch situations. As for the New York Jets, so I broke this team down at the 33rd team. Actually, I talked about this for free over so 33rd team is free, but I also talked about this over on the PFF Fantasy Football podcast with Ian on Friday. Mike White is a more aggressive passer than Zach Wilson is, and that is really good for our purposes, right? We like guys who will put their players in position to they'll just give them an opportunity rather than check down and not get aggressive with it. So with Mike White at the helm, we have stability for Garrett Wilson, who has been a straight baller in 3 of the last 4 games. And I broke this usage down here, and I compared Wilson's production, his usage, deployment, etc., with Week 11 included and with Week 11 excluded, and also just a season-long data. Now, the reason that I excluded the Week 11 data there is because that was the performance that caused Zach Wilson to lose his job. He only threw for 77 passing yards. He ran for 26. It was so bad that I wanted to see what Wilson looked like with moderate quarterback play. So go check that out. But ultimately, I think the takeaway that I'm left with here is that Garrett Wilson may just settle in as a fantasy wide receiver 1 for the rest of the year. At worst, I think he's a wide receiver 2. And I know that probably sounds a little bit lofty, but like the data is all there for you to go parse. And I'm not going to share it here on this show because it's not for me to share here, but go read that data there. The dude is elite. And, I saw Fuzu on Twitter talking about how he's basically who we thought Jerry Jeudy was. And I kind of find that to be an apt comparison. After the catch, the dude is just a freak. I'm not going to start waxing poetic, but Garrett Wilson, and props to our guy, Patty Cooper. Patty had Garrett Wilson as the number 1 dynasty wide receiver from the most recent class. And I think he had a ranked like preseason as like the wide receiver 17. Excuse me. He nailed the Garrett Wilson eval. So good for you, Patty. Patty is so damn smart. Where was I? Okay. Elijah Moore, not efficient. Got the job done. I'd add him if you need a receiver, but not efficient. In terms of the tight ends, Tyler Conklin is just a friggin' coin flip every week. As far as the running backs go, so Michael Carter suffered an ankle sprain, and I broke down the pre and post injury usage in this same article, the 5 things we learned. So go read it. What we've learned so far is Michael Carter's ankle injury is an inversion ankle injury or a low ankle injury. What does the data tell us there? 1.7 games missed with a 15% fantasy production dip upon his initial return. An average of 13.2% dip over the first 3 games after his return. It's not bad, but it's not great for a guy who is in a 3-person committee. I saw Edwin at FB Injury Doc on Twitter talking about that maybe this was a high ankle, and he breaks down the mechanism and everything, and that there was a high ankle that Michael Carter suffered last year, and that maybe this was like a year later re-aggravation. Robert Salah is probably telling the truth. But Jeff, I interacted with him on Twitter, and he was saying that it's reasonable or that Carter could play this week. I just don't know. Ultimately, I just don't know. I tend to think he'll miss. I tend to think that Michael Carter will miss this week. Frankly, I kind of think he might miss more than 1 week, but we'll find out. Like we'll take the news as it comes. But what did the backfield look like? Right. So Zonovan Bam Knight. You might find him as Bam Knight. I think he's like Bam on Yahoo, but Zonovan somewhere else. Anyways, his name is Zonovan Knight, nickname Bam. Dude didn't really profile as a great pass catching back, but I was talking to my buddy Jacob. He's participated in NerdBall mock drafts under the alias Jax. He's an author, James Wolfe. He brought up to me, he highlighted to me that Zonovan Knight was actually a really good return man in college. I think he said he was all ACC. Now that's interesting. Sometimes running backs they don't profile as whatever because the team isn't using him in a certain way. Like Ken Walker looks like he actually might be a pretty decent pass catching running back, but he wasn't getting a lot of pass catching usage. But what we come to learn is that they basically just need more opportunities. They're beasts and they'll succeed. Returners, collegiate athletes who are good with the ball in their hands, who are returners, oftentimes end up being very good in the pros. Now, good returners oftentimes end up being good in the pros. A guy that might come to mind here is Tyler Lockett. So anyway, Bam, I think he'll be the lead back with Michael Carter out. James Robinson was a surprise inactive last week. He was healthy. Zonovan Knight, you can find all the usage data here. He's got a little bit of passing game usage. He saw way more work than Ty Johnson did. What I expect is Zonovan probably gets like the Joe Mixon type workload. Featured rusher on early downs, gets some early down passing work, maybe plays on a few passing downs as well. Ty Johnson spells him on early downs and takes the majority of passing down snaps. That's what I think. Who should you go get? I would probably prioritize Zonovan because I think his volume of work is going to be pretty decent, but I would submit waiver claims for both of these guys if you're in need of a running back. Of course, monitor the news on Michael Carter right up until the end of Tuesday night. All right. Cincinnati Bengals 20 at Tennessee Titans. Joe Burrow keeps his rushing floor going. It's awesome. He's obviously a prolific passer, but we'll take a rushing floor quarterback whenever we can get it. Hayden Hurst, very steady. To the follower who was asking me about Dawson Knox, I was leaning Knox for this most recent week with the matchup against Detroit. These tight ends that are moderate, that are in great offenses, they can do good stuff and they can also totally flop. So I know you ended up going with Dawson Knox. I'm sorry about that. He didn't perform as well as Hayden Hurst did, but hey, Hayden Hurst didn't really tear the cover off either. So anyway, T. Higgins, beast. Tyler Boyd, disappointment. Samaje Perine, though. Perine was really interesting. So I wrote him up actually in the 5 things we learned from last week. 5'10", 5'11", 240 pounds. And the dude is efficient as a receiver. Like, he has been really efficient both this year and throughout his career. Is he Eckler? No, he's not Austin Eckler, but he has been really efficient. I knew that the Tennessee Titans have a good front seven and that they've caused problems for running backs. But when we get these guys who are capable, are proficient in the receiving game, they're built to take a bunch of contact, and they already get rushing work, and they get to have this spot start. I mean, it's one thing if it's a guy who's on a bad offense, like we're not gonna get too far into that, but it's one thing if it's a replacement back who's on a bad offense and whatever. This is a Super Bowl qualifying offense. Perine has been around for a long time. To me, Perine was a fairly obvious smash spot. I had him as a mid-range RB2, and I honestly wish I'd been a little bit higher on him. It was I didn't kind of catch too much flack. Actually, I was surprised by how many. I was surprised by people fearing a capable running back in a good offense, but I understand. I like matchups too. So hey, what can I say there? But anyway, if Joe Mixon is out again, and the data suggests that he might be running backs who suffer injuries per the injury index miss 1.8 games. So not unreasonable to think that Mixon is out again. Now, Adam Schefter reported that Mixon was trending in the right direction, but trend all you want. I don't think he logged any practice designations last week. What you have to do, as I understand it, to get cleared from the concussion protocol is you've got to go through a limited practice, not have any concussion symptoms flare up overnight. Then you have to do a full practice, and then I think you got to go through like a full 24 hours to see if your concussion symptoms resurface. And if they don't, then you're good to go. But a few weeks ago, Matthew Stafford was still listed as questionable, and he only got in a limited practice participation on a Friday. And I think he should have been ruled out right there because I think he got to go LP full participant. Anyway, just monitor the practice report. We'll see what Joe Mixon, what the deal is there. But if he's inactive again, you're just starting Samaje Perine. Travion Williams was the number 2. Chris Evans, it's going to be tough to project this going forward because Evans has been nursing the I think it's a knee injury. But Travion is a capable dual threat too. And I think that he'll just continue to be that primary backup in the event that Perine is the starter again. On the Tennessee side of things, Dr. Hilliard still factoring in on passing downs. As far as Treylon Burks goes, if anybody is watched last week and takes away from it that Treylon, he's a fluke, he whatever, like he only got seal dove on that fumble that Derrick Henry had right at the goal line. So for those that didn't see it, Derrick Henry, he caught a pass. I think it was a delayed. He leaked out. Delayed pass. He snagged it, carried it 72 yards. Got the ball punched out inside the 5-yard line, maybe at the 5-yard line. And then Treylon Burks just like Superman's in and slides like a seal, like Justin Fields in that week 1 clip from the San Francisco game. Just lands on it in the end zone and gets a touchdown. So if you want to point to that and go, no, look, like his fantasy production this week was BS. It's just all because of the touchdown. No. This dude has been a monster efficient target earner since he returned from the foot injury. Has he put up gaudy numbers? Well, I mean, mild last week. Yeah. This week was pretty good too. I'm actually blanking on the overall total that he had. I don't think he cleared 100 yards that first week, but yeah, 4 of 6 for 70. When you look at these guys on the per play data, Treylon Burks is a real deal. He's a real deal NFL receiver. And if you still have a trade window and anybody's concerned about that touchdown being fluky or whatever, you go trade for him right now. Treylon Burks is real. I also kind of think that Nick Westbrook-Ikhine might be passing Robert Woods on the depth chart. So keep an eye on that. Like if you're looking for a bench stash receiver, I would probably prioritize Westbrook-Ikhine over Robert Woods. Now, if you're looking for a deep league bench stash, we already talked about him last week, but Chigoziem Okonkwo, dude continues to be an efficiency king. He is slowly overtaking Austin Hooper, and Okonkwo. Yeah, I waxed poetic about him last week. This dude, I think it was Ryan Reynolds. Yeah. It was on our show at the 33rd Team for waivers 2 weeks ago. He referred to Okonkwo is potentially like the Albert O, this like super freak tight end who flashes at the end of the season and he's hot entering 2023. If you're in a dynasty league or a keeper league, you have to go add Okonkwo. The thing is he might actually just be good instead of being Albert O. So anything we can get at the tight end position, you got to take advantage of. If you got the bench room, you need to go at him. Atlanta Falcons, 13, Washington Commanders, 19. Caleb Huntley, limited with the ankle injury. It allowed both Cordell Patterson and Tyler Algier to clear double-digit carries. Didn't do a whole lot with it. Bit of a bummer. I'm not buying Olamide Zaccheaus as a real deal fantasy starter. Brian Robinson Jr., I think, just separated from Antonio Gibson, though Antonio Gibson is still factoring in on passing downs. Terry McLaurin's underlying usage is outrageous. It's gonna hit either this year, they're gonna get things going, or next year if they get a quarterback. Terry McLaurin is going to be inseparable from that top 5 group. Like, just incredible efficiency. Trade for him now in Dynasty if you can. The other wide receivers, just not a whole lot of involvement. Ignore the tight ends. Las Vegas Raiders 40 at Seattle Seahawks 34. Talk about this every week. Seattle Seahawks are the league's worst defense against opposing tight ends. Foster Moreau scores that touchdown. If you got a mildly talented tight end and you don't have, a stud to start, just start him against Seattle, start him against Arizona. although Isaiah Simmons maybe is becoming good. We'll see. Starting in Seattle, Arizona, and Jacksonville. Amir Bullitt still getting in there. This is so funny. Josh Jacobs, he's balling out, but he has the Joe Mixon workload. He does not have a full-time passing down role. And it's hilarious because he's killing it on efficiency. But yeah, anyway, I mean, Josh Jacobs, I advised him as a trade candidate a couple of weeks ago because he did lose significant passing down snaps. But the Joe Mixon role is fine for him. He's going to succeed on that, and you should keep him and just profit. Amir Bullitt, he's a PPR asset, but not a ton of upside. Mac Hollins, I doubted him this week. I'll probably continue doubting him from time to time. He's just a volatile dude, probably better in best ball. The Seattle Seahawks are splitting the heck out of their running backs on passing downs. Kenneth Walker I think he's a good receiver, but this week, maybe not so great. He's been a little inefficient. It's been he is weird. He looks outstanding at times, and then he can also just be unbelievably inefficient. I saw Jeff suggesting in Dynasty that you trade away Kenneth Walker to acquire Breece Hall. I give that a stamp of approval. Metcalf, big time target earned this week, and I think he'll continue to do that, but he left a little on the field, a little disappointed with the yardage total. Wish he had scored a touchdown. Tyler Lockett, straight baller. Los Angeles Rams 10 at Kansas City Chiefs 26. Los Angeles, two guys are relevant. Van Jefferson, and he's a wide receiver 4, and Kyron Williams, probably a running back 4, maybe he's the RB 35. He has won the lead back role. Now, is that worth something? Don't know. We'll find out. But any team that has a clear-cut lead, he should be rostered in 12-team formats. Kansas City, couple things to touch on here. I know I've talked your ear off about him already all season, but Sky Moore, his metrics over the last 2 weeks are outstanding. And I'm not saying that. I'm not BSing you. His per play efficiency is excellent. I mean, excellent, elite. So there is an opportunity there every week. There's been an opportunity for a Kansas City wide receiver. And I know that you were probably tired of hearing this. At first it was Kadarius Toney, or first it was Sky Moore, then it was Kadarius Toney. Now we're back to Sky Moore, and we've been on Sky Moore a number of times. There's a role for someone to just be a boss in this offense alongside Travis Kelce. How do I know that? Because go look at Tyreek Hill. Juju, they eased him in. I think he'll continue to be a weekly start, but if Sky Moore is out there, you should go at him. All right, we'll get to this in a minute, but I'm saying this out loud so I don't forget. Elijah Mitchell out 6 to 8 weeks with an MCL sprain on the other side of his body from the other one that knocked him out. That sucks. So Sky Moore, go at him. Jerick McKinnon still is the primary passing down guy. Pacheco, not that efficient. He finally scored. I think that he can continue to be fruitful, but the team today, 2 hours ago, signed Melvin Gordon. What does that do to the backfield? It's a really good question. It's not great that they actually felt the need to sign him. Now, they're sending him to the practice squad, and they elevated Ronald Jones last week. Ronald Jones has been a total flop. So what could Melvin Gordon be? Melvin Gordon could be the Ronald Jones replacement. Melvin Gordon could be the Jerick McKinnon break glass in case of emergency. Melvin Gordon has always been a plus-sized pass-catching back. McKinnon has been on the injury report over the last 3 weeks with, at the same time, hamstring, knee, and shoulder injuries, if I recall correctly. So is Melvin Gordon signing an imminent doomsday moment for Isaiah Pacheco? No, I don't think so. Could it be? Yeah. I don't think it is. I think that Pacheco, he was already earning the role over CEH. I think that he'll maintain it. Could Gordon be a problem? Yeah, he could. I think he probably is just the number 3, though. I think he probably is just the number 3. Now, if they bring him in like CEH was, that can be a problem for both McKinnon and Pacheco. Right now, I'm not panicking. I'll probably still start Pacheco this week, but just monitor the situation. I would not go rush to sign Melvin Gordon, but if you have the bench spot, why not? New Orleans Saints 0 at San Francisco 49ers 13. The team's failure to incorporate Taysom Hill more it's just that. It's a failure. Chris Olave, target earning freak. Juwan Johnson, not that good. not very efficient as a receiver. Yeah, I mean, we love touchdowns, but not that efficient. Taysom should be the number 2 running back. He should be getting so much work. Alvin Kamara, he missed some time. Mark Ingram does not need 4 carries. He does not need to be playing on passing down snaps. Total failure by Dennis Allen. San Francisco 49ers. But you know what the passing game is already. Christian McCaffrey is dealing with a patellar tendinopathy. What is that? Well, I have it. It sucks. I'm not an athlete, so we're not going to compare me to him. He can play through it. There will be some load management issues. Don't panic, but we might see some other guys getting in situations where we're surprised to see them. Elijah Mitchell's going to be out. Jordan Mason was active because he plays on special teams. Week 2, Tyrion Davis-Price had 14 carries. Was he efficient? No. But one of these guys, TDP or Jordan Mason, will be the number 2 behind a now load-managed Christian McCaffrey. Which one should you add? Really, either one. I mean, TDP, he theoretically, I think, may be the primary rusher, but at this point, Jordan Mason's had a bunch of activations under his belt. He's like the more established pro, so I could see them going either way here. If I have to choose one, then it would be Tyrion Davis-Price, but we're talking 55-45. Add one of them, at least. Green Bay Packers 33 at Philadelphia Eagles. And I know I skipped the Arizona Cardinals game, and we'll get back to that in a second here. But 33 Packers, Philadelphia Eagles 40. Christian Watson is the long-term wide receiver 1 in Green Bay. The kid has done it. I doubted him early in the year, and I was wrong. He's friggin' on fire. Just start him every single week. He's doing more than scoring touchdowns. He's being efficient on a per play basis. It is utilization. It is production. It is results. It is everything we want. Shout out to Dwayne. But it is everything that we want in a fantasy starting wide receiver. Christian Watson is the Green Bay Packers number 1. Lazard is still startable in certain matchups. Don't know what to think of Dobbs when he comes back. You can ignore Robert Tonyan. I don't think he's coming back from the ACL sprint or the ACL tear. I mean, maybe next year he can turn things around. It's not going to be this year. Aaron Jones, really good passing game usage. Love that. Keep it going. We can rank him inside the top 15, I think, as long as he's getting that. Aaron Rodgers, he had a ribs issue, and then he took a hit, and then we don't know what it is. We don't know what the issue is. He's still gonna have a bunch of tests. Speaking of tests, I forgot to mention that Darnell Mooney is out for the year for the Chicago Bears. But Rodgers, I think he'll probably play. I think he will probably play, but it was really nice to see Watson's 63-yard touchdown come from Jordan Love. Woohoo! Randall Cobb failed me. That was a bummer. I was high on him for DFS purposes, but anyway, AJ Dillon made the most of his 8 carries, but still 8 carries. He might have gotten a little passing game usage, not significant. Miles Sanders got over 20 carries for the second time this year. That's awesome. Kenneth Gainwell, though, significant passing down role. Quez Watkins is fantasy relevant with Dallas Goedert out of the picture, not just because of the touchdowns. He doesn't have to compete with Dallas Goedert for slot reps now, and he's kind of starting to earn targets efficiently. So that's cool. Good for you, Quez. 12-team leagues. If you got an empty spot on your bench, I think he's a totally fine add if you need a wide receiver for the stretch run. Devontae Smith will hit. Just keep going. Grant Calcaterra didn't do a lot with his looks, but I think he is separating from Jack Stoll. On the Chargers side of things, Los Angeles Chargers 25, Arizona Cardinals 24. Herbert, pretty good game. Austin Eckler, just an obscene monster passing game asset. DeAndre Carter, this week, he got the better of Josh Palmer. Next week, we'll see what it is. Go back to the data, try to figure that out. Keenan Allen, super steady, wide receiver 2. Don't overthink that. Gerald Everett, I think he's playing through that groin strain because they were getting he didn't have a big enough role. The backfield behind Eckler is a little bit split. It's not awesome. On the Kyler Murray side of things, Kyler Murray threw Cliff under the bus when he threw an interception on 4th down. He was asked about it. Well, why'd you throw the interception? He said, content warning here, language. His response was, schematically, we were kind of fucked. That is pointing the finger directly at Cliff Kingsbury. So Cliff's gone at the end of this year. They'll just eat the money. It's going to be bad. And Steve Keim's probably getting fired. I think Steve Keim's been on the job longer than he should have been. But talk for another time. Kyler Murray, though, he's a fantasy quarterback one. Just a monster, a little tiny monster. DeAndre Hopkins was impacted by the return of Marquise Brown, who I think played a pretty good complement of snaps. Didn't seem like he was limited. They're going to be on bye this week, so Kyler and Cliff can fight it out. I know Ian Rappaport, he put out that propaganda piece about how they'd rekindled and everything, but Ian Rappaport reporting poorly. Who could have guessed? DeAndre Hopkins, he's still a fantasy football wide receiver one. It was extremely high on him this week. We love this Chargers defense for our offensive matchups. Marquise Brown, though, great to see him running routes out there. He's gonna go into the bye this week, and he should be good to go the following week. And then we're gonna have Rondale Moore probably back too. I am blanking on what his injury was. Greg Dortch had the thumb injury, and then I think it was a groin for Rondale Moore. Wide receivers miss 2.0 games on average, so he should be back upon their initial return. Bit of a dip in production, so we'll see. 35.8%. That's pretty significant, but he's not going to be asked to carry the load here with Hopkins and Marquise Hollywood Brown. So I think that they could just be efficient, and it'll just be a really good offense to watch down the stretch. As for the backfield, James Conner, just a touch monster, decent passing game usage. Keontae Ingram is a must roster. That is what I will leave you with. Keontae Ingram is a must roster option for teams who are well on their way to the fantasy football playoffs. Hit me up at Nic Bodiford NFL on Twitter. Hit us up at NerdBallFF on Twitter. Visit our website, www.nerdballff.com. Check out all of our signature stats because Patty is a friggin' genius. Go follow him, Patty Cooper, at Patty Cooper on Twitter. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Peace.